Hello, professionals, and welcome to the Mastery Matrix ITIL 5 2026 update. My name is Herselman. I am a senior trainer with more than 15 years of experience, and I am here to show you everything that changed from the ITIL 4 framework to the ITIL 5 framework update for 2026. Let's get started. Okay, first up, I want to discuss a disclaimer. This is not training. This is purely just knowledge sharing regarding the update from ITIL 4 to ITIL 5 and the major changes that took place. I am not by any means covering all of the changes that have taken place in ITIL. There is no way I could do that with a lot of time here. I really just chose the four primary changes that, in my opinion, stood out as I did the qualifications and transitions from Foundation 4 to 5 early on. So yes, these are the four major changes I'd like to discuss, and the ones that I think are going to have the biggest impact on the framework as a whole. This is, of course, my opinion. There's going to be lots of people with differing opinions regarding this. But again, with that disclaimer done, next, let's have a look at the audience. Who is really going to be interested in the information here? Primarily professionals that have already certified in ITIL 4. I would add with that any HR professionals that need to organize training for their companies and for their IT departments that need to know what's going on regarding the frameworks that are being trained. Also, you would have the business unit managers from the various training organizations, as well as account managers and salespeople that I think would also be quite interested to see the differences between ITIL 4 and ITIL 5 simply explained. My objectives, as we present the differences between ITIL 4 and ITIL 5, I really only have one objective. I always discuss objectives anytime I'm explaining anything to anyone. I'm always trying to achieve a goal here with this session. Really, my goal is for you as the individual watching this video to have enough information to take away that if someone at work asks you what is the difference between ITIL 4 and ITIL 5, or what's new with ITIL 5, or is it worth it to go and attend training for ITIL 5 and get certified in ITIL 5, you're able to give a concise and confident answer regarding what ITIL 5 is and what the differences are between ITIL 4 and ITIL 5 at a high level. All right, let me go back here. Now that all of the disclaimers and announcements are done, I think we can slowly jump into the differences here between ITIL 4 and ITIL 5. First up, I want to talk about the big picture. What are the four major changes that I identified in my studies between ITIL 4 and ITIL 5? These primary four changes, the first big one is the ITIL core conceptual model. The core model of ITIL changed. Some boundaries changed, some steps were added, some integration was done regarding the model as well, which I think is fantastic, kind of alluding to how the model works just in the design, just in the picture of the model, instead of having to kind of allude to it in other models like we used to have to do in ITIL 4. The value chain has completely changed. So we have service value chain from ITIL 4. In ITIL 5, this becomes the service and product life cycle. The value chain has changed. Not a lot, but also a lot. Governance patterns are changing. ITIL 4 foundation level, you had EDM and DPI, you had deeper patterns of governance and directive, as well as some in terms of digital and IT strategy. Expanded on greatly in ITIL 5. Governance is getting a rehaul and a much closer detailed look in terms of its capability and its importance to ITIL. Exciting stuff here. And then, of course, we've got a brand new model for ITIL called the ITIL AI capability model. This stood out to me as being a really good idea. Having a standard model that we can measure the capability of our AI without intermediate criteria like we do with normal capability assessments like CMMI or CPM, where you have predefined criteria that define whether you have a high capability or low capability process or ability to do something, right? This can be very difficult with AI because in a lot of cases, AI functions and processes data and information in hidden layers and too fast for us to really process and monitor. What we can really only do is monitor outputs and outcomes. So this is quite interesting to see from a conceptual model, how ITIL is bringing in an AI governance model. This is really what this is about. Capability enables current state enables desired state, and desired state becomes governance directive, right? So this is fantastic news and awesome to see coming from ITIL 5. So we're going to be having a look at these four major differences. Okay, jumping to ITIL 4, let's have a quick look at ITIL 4 and the ITIL 4 service value system. If you remember from your ITIL 4 days, we had the SVS, or service value system. This system was really a business model that focuses on 4 major characteristics. The first biggest piece, the first biggest upgrade from ITIL 3 to ITIL 4 was the idea and the use of something called a value stream. A value stream, right? It was also very, very, very dynamic and something that could be tailored to the value proposition. Yeah. Dynamic meaning it's flexible, it could adjust to change. You could really enable any model of work you wanted to within this layered structure, this layered framework. So if you wanted to run DevOps, you had a model to run DevOps within the service value chain, still having your controls for governance, having your controls for guiding principles, being enabled by your practices and being enabled by continual improvement. If you wanted to run waterfall, you could do so within ITIL 4. It was completely dynamic. If you wanted to run V-Shape Six Sigma, technically you could. If you wanted to run SAFe and the SAFe landscapes, there would be some integration, but you could run this within this model. Very, very, very dynamic and unifying capabilities, right? The capabilities for projects and programs and architecture and all of the various capabilities that would have to complete work in order to generate value or a value proposition was all loaded onto one, what we called an SVC, or a service value chain. All right, which you could adjust, which you could edit and tailor. Having a closer look at this model, the boundaries are set, the boundaries are tight. We have from opportunity to demand. You guys should all be quite familiar with this model, even though if you haven't had a look at it in a while, I think this will still ring a bell. We can see very clear boundaries between the layers in this model, separating them very clearly. We can also see 2 parts here in the model. We can also see our vital part here in the middle, our value stream going from left to right, moving from opportunity and demand through the service value chain into value. Interestingly, they don't show you the steps in the service value chain. All right, we have a service value chain. We'll look at it in a second. For ITIL 4, they don't actually show you that, right? If we move over here into ITIL 5, I will show you our updates. The first big change here is the naming convention. So in ITIL 5, the name from service value system, from ITIL 4, the service value system, to what is now referred to as the ITIL 5 value system. Quite a nice update. I actually like the fact that they took away the service word, because as I mentioned in ITIL 4 already, we loaded all the capabilities required to align to the value proposition first onto one value stream. That was the point of the value stream, moving through from opportunity and demand through to value for the stakeholders, that those being the consumers and service providers and stakeholders as a whole. Now in ITIL 5, they kind of expand on the boundary here. But yeah, this is the major update in terms of naming convention. A few major things I noticed as I moved through the content here in the value system. First of all, the boundaries. The boundaries have shifted. If we have a closer look here at the new value system, we see that there used to be boundaries between governance and the value chain in the middle, and there used to be a boundary between practices and the value chain in the middle. If we go and look here at ITIL 4 and the service value system, we see very clearly defined boundaries between governance and the service value chain and practices and the service value chain. These boundaries have now fallen away. Why? Because we know that governance and practices both play an integral role to any of these steps functioning as they should. As an example, when we discover new value propositions, one of the major considerations would be from governance and whether this opportunity falls into the strategic alignment for the business, right? These ideas that go through ideation and discovery for service delivery and for value proposition delivery need to go through alignment and need to be authorized and need to be approved by the various stages, depends on the business. So each one of these steps are primarily enabled by either practices or governance or both. I'm a really big fan of this move. Removing these boundaries really does show the connection between the value chain and governance and practices, and that these are active controls and enablers that are helping us achieve and complete these steps in the middle of this model. I'm a huge fan of the boundaries that have shifted. The next major change here is the value chain steps are now visible in the value system. In the value system itself, we can see here in the middle, we can actually see our value chain steps. We have discover, design, acquire, build, transition, operate, deliver, and support, our 8 major steps for our value chain. In our old ITIL 4 model, one of the major things we did not have is the actual steps to the service value chain in the service value system itself. So in many cases, especially for those who only attended foundation or only certified in foundation, many people did not make the connection that the service value chain, what you see here, these steps you see here in the middle, are actually happening in the middle of the service value system, right? They're taking place there. So many people missed this. They thought that these are 2 separate models, and in many cases they are. One is a business model, one is an operating model, but still they were happening within each other and enabled by each other. And I think this is much better kind of modeled out and shown in the ITIL 5 core model, the value system model. We clearly see the value chain activities that are being affected by governance and practices, although still being guided by the same guiding principles and the same continual improvement model, with a few updates, but the same idea behind culture improvement. We can actually add this here. There's lots of similarities as well. A lot stays the same. That being our value stream, or the value stream approach. The 4 dimensions stay the same. Some mention of AI and AI skills, but really 4 dimensions stay the same. 3 here, the value stream stays the same, so the 4 dimensions stay the same. Your guiding principles all stay the same as well. So there's still a lot that you still know from ITIL 5, or rather from ITIL 4, that's still available in ITIL 5. I'm a really big fan of the changes they've made to the model. It's a more integrated model. Moving on into our service value chain for ITIL 4. I want to have a look at the value chain model, the update that's happened in ITIL 5 to what's called the service and product management lifecycle. So first off here, let's talk about the value or service value chain, what used to be called the SVC in ITIL 4, or the service value chain. We can see this here in the middle of our service value system. We can see the service value chain, this chain being in the middle here. We see all of our steps. We have 6 major steps here. We have 6 major SVC steps. We have plan, engage, design and transition, obtain and build, deliver and support, products and services, although that's not one of the steps, and improve. All right. Again, this is fully dynamic. The steps themselves are flexible. And yeah, could freely be edited by whoever was implementing this operating model. This was defined in ITIL 4 as a operating model. Now let's have a look at the ITIL 5 service and product life cycle. So we've moved away from the service value chain to what is now called the service and product life cycle, which again, I'm a big fan of. I'm a big fan of all the updates, to be honest with you, from ITIL 4 to ITIL 5. There's been some really good pragmatic updates from ITIL 4 to ITIL 5 outside of the whole AI run. Yes, AI is important. Yes, being the first to a capable and value-driven AI is what everyone's after. But there's so much more to the update in ITIL 4 than just AI. I want to kind of allude to that as well. There's a lot of really good things happening in terms of the framework. So The first thing, big thing to note again, like I said a little bit earlier on, the actual value chain steps are represented in the value system, but they are represented differently in the model itself. So you'll see in the books and in the online, if you go and look for ITIL 5 value chains, you will find the service and product lifecycle. The first major thing I noticed when I looked at this is that they've added a very intentional iterative nature to this model. They've added very intentional cyclical approaches. Quite interesting to see. Many people might have the misconception here because it's been added to the value system that it is linear, right? That one passes after another. This again is not the case. It is still a fully dynamic operating model. You can still add and remove steps as you require, as business requirements and as consumer requirements dictate, right? Right. Still a fully dynamic operating model. And defined iterative nature. We can see that in the model itself immediately right from the start. And we now have the discover step, which is really cool. I am a big fan of the discover step. I'm not the greatest fan in terms of the engage and plan steps being removed. I really did like the multi-layer approach of the plan at the top here, overarching across everything. And that was relatively easy to relate to sprint planning in terms of using an agile or scrum agile approach. So that was easy to ratify. But I must say, I am a huge fan, of course. You know, if we look at the larger, I guess, context, we could say that you would still have plan around here. And you would still have improve around here, right? These are still primary enablers and requirements from the value system. They're still there, right? They're driven by guiding principles and continual improvement. But now our value chain actually reflects our guiding principles. We are doing things, we are progressing iteratively and with feedback, right? You'll see the importance of feedback in ITIL 5 also takes a little bit of an uptick in focus for shorter feedback loops, which is also a really good thing. Very exciting changes that have come to the value chain, now called the service and product lifecycle. All right, zooming back out, now that we've completed ITIL 5's service and product lifecycle overview, let's have a look at the ITIL governance patterns, our next subject here, our next theme that we're discussing. This is a very, very, very important theme. The big update happened here. Between the classical EDM governance structure, the evaluate, direct, and monitor structure, we've moved over to still using EDM. EDM is still in use. Of course, we are never going to stop evaluating, directing, and monitoring. But now what's also been added is the ITIL 12-step transformation model, as well as identified and formalized governance patterns. So different structures and different expressions of governance in different types of businesses. There's a lot more guidance around governance, specifically governance for service management, that is available in the new ITIL 5, which I found to be refreshing and very nice to see. One thing I do want to discuss here is the 12-step transformation model, a little bit of an expansion on this idea. You might have noticed in the qualification scheme for ITIL 5, there is now a transformation module. I believe it's releasing on the 9th of April or the 14th of May. I'll have to double check for you which at what point the transformation module is dropping. I believe it's on the 9th of April, but I might be wrong there. This is a very interesting approach. ITIL did include organizational change management into the set of practices for ITIL 4, and it has always recognize the need to change people alongside processes and systems, but there's never been a focus on the organizational change as it has been ITIL 5. They are really locking down on transformational efforts on how to transform businesses and services and consumers and stakeholders and everything and everyone in order to accept new service value propositions in new and exciting forms, for example, AI, or digitized automation, or whatever next step your business is working on. I found this to be quite refreshing to see the big focus on managing transformation for businesses, as it is now such a prerequisite. We're in a space of constant transformation as people and as businesses. We can see this reflected in our market spaces and places. Okay, zooming back out again, let's have a look at our last theme here. We're looking at the ITIL AI capability model. our last piece here. Really, the only guiding structure we had in ITIL 4 was the guiding principle number 7, which was optimize and automate. And the path of optimization that was outlined, I believe, in ITIL 4, rather, I shouldn't say before, ITIL 4 Foundation and ITIL 4 High Velocity IT, I believe, also had a path for optimization, which was quite interesting. We move over into ITIL 5. There was a much bigger focus on AI and AI capability, and they've actually produced, I would say, in my opinion, a pretty robust AI capability model that helps us identify and measure firstly, what we would like to achieve, the why, the purpose of the AI service, but also manage the desired state and the objectives that we wish to achieve with artificial intelligence in the business. This is, of course, purpose-based, right? We're not just implementing or deploying AIs because we can, but because they have a clear utility and warranty statement associated with them. They are fit for purpose, thus they have a purpose, and they are fit for use, thus they have a use, right? Fantastic model. I really like the 6C model. It really clarifies what the different uses for AI in the business typically is, and how you mature to those uses and to those capabilities. So major fan of the structure, adding an AI capability model so that we can not only manage the AI better, but we can govern AI better as well. Now that we're done with the AI capability model, let's close off here. A few things that I want to mention. First off, your options to certify in ITIL 5. I will be bringing out a fully fledged description and breakdown of the ITIL 5 qualification scheme. But for right now, you have access to the foundation certification, as well as a few of the other intermediate certifications that are already available. But I think for the most of us, we're focused on transitioning either to foundation, from foundation 4 to foundation 5, or we're moving over from managing professional 4 to managing professional 5. That is the primary certification path for most of us that are already qualified. Of course, if you haven't qualified in ITIL before, or you qualified in ITIL 3 but never qualified in ITIL 4, then of course come and do the ITIL 5 foundation. Get your certification. You can get these certifications and training for these certifications from PeopleCert authorized training organizations, or ATOs. The ATOs that I personally work with as a trainer, that I'm partnered up with, that Mastery Matrix is partnered up with, includes Pink Elephant, South Africa, Talk IT, as well as Mesa Inter-Ed. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our look at the differences between ITIL 4 and ITIL 5 and the changes and the major inclusions in ITIL 5 that stood out to me as I prepared for my exam, for my ITIL 5 transition exam last week. I just wanted to share this very simple view of the changes to everyone. Let me know what you think.